Much for the service again. We're going to continue in our discussions on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And we'll begin with some kirtan. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Shanyavadi Vaspatya Shadari Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Shesha Shanyavadi Vaspatya Shadari Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Jai Sita Ram Lakshmana Krishna Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Snitai Gaura Hari Hari Bol. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us. We will begin with prayers. Om Gyanatmirandasya Gnanginashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astraktiyashtari. So thank you all so much for this opportunity to serve as we discuss this wonderful book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This is a book by Srila Prabhupada that's based on the authorized biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Chaitanya. Today we're going to discuss the 10th chapter of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is based on the beauty of Krishna. I pray for all the blessings and justice to this class, because this is a very special topic where we'll be discussing a little more about Krishna's pastimes and interactions in Vrindavan. So this is some wonderful mercy of the Lord to us, because we're entering into the month of Kartika on Sunday, which is the holiest month of the year generally for Vaishnavas, where the Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan in particular are celebrated, and the Damodar Leela above all, but also Krishna's wonderful pastimes with those who love so much Vrindavan, Gopis. So this will be a nice meditation for us to enter the month with. And we will start with the invocation, which is verse 18 of the first chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Translation is: Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda, glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. So, we begin with Lord Chaitanya's statements. Krishna is known as Madan Mohan because he conquers the mind of Cupid. He is also known as Madan Mohan for his bestowing favors upon the damsels of Raja and accepting their devotional service. After conquering Cupid's pride, the Lord engages in the Rasa dance as the new Cupid. He is also known as Madan Mohan because his ability to conquer the minds of women is 5 arrows: form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. So these statements are very significant because in this material world, we know that everything is moving under the spell of lust. So this figurehead of Cupid as the one who incites lust, which in the material world, of course, is called love, but really Cupid is the inciter of lust rather than love. It's not unique to Western traditions. Cupid is also found in the Vedic traditions, only he is known as Kamadev. So he has a function as well as one of the demigods who is in charge of this lust, which is actually supposed to be the function of procreation only, unfortunately being misused, particularly in this age of Kali. And Cupid is well armed, just like in the Western traditions, with a bow and arrow. So it's interesting to know that there are parallels between the gods or demigods of the Western traditions, like the Greek and Roman gods who share some similarities. Like we have Indra in Vedic pantheon, who is also thunderbolt wielding god of the skies, and he is the king of the gods. And we have similar figures in Greek and Roman history as Zeus and Jupiter. So, so there's a story in connection with Kamadev and Krishna that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is mentioned here. His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj recently mentioned it in one of his classes that Kamadev himself was trying to challenge Krishna by trying to entice him with his arrows. But Krishna, of course, was not only too quick for him, and Cupid kept missing, but Krishna, of course, is always on the transcendental level. Even when he appears in the material world, he is completely in his own perfect spiritual atmosphere. Therefore, he can never be touched by material qualities like dust. So after missing quite a few times, Cupid gave up in frustration. But that was when he was able to fully behold the beauty of Krishna, and this stunned him to the point of collapse. So Krishna is known as the attractor of the mind of Cupid, Mother Mohan, as much as he attracts all the minds of all living entities, but here specifically the damsels of Vrindavan as well. The interesting point is that even though Krishna attracts all, Krishna himself is known as Atmaram. He is fully satisfied in himself, and he doesn't actually have to have attraction. He doesn't have attraction for anybody. Krishna pleases his devotees by associating with them, but he is never bound by affection the way we would think an ordinary person is. It's described in Srimad Bhagavatam that even though Krishna's queens were so exquisitely beautiful that they could attract the mind of Cupid, a person, even Lord Shiva, who is greatly known as very renounced. Um, Lord Shiva was even able to resist the arrows of Cupid. But even Lord Shiva can be attracted by the wives of Krishna, but Krishna himself is not. And we know that even before the Rasa dance, when Krishna was surrounded by the Gopis, whose love is, of course, even more deeper than the love of the queens of Dwarka, Krishna left them, demonstrating his supreme principle of renunciation. This is one of his opulences. So, Lord Chaitanya continues. The pearls of the necklace hanging on Krishna's neck are as white as ducks, and the peacock feather decorating his head is colored like a rainbow. His yellow garment is like lightning in the sky, and Krishna himself is like a newly arrived cloud. The gopis are like food grains in the field, and when the cloud pours rain on those grains, it appears that Krishna is nourishing the hearts of the gopis by calling down his pastime rain of mercy. Indeed, ducks fly in the sky during the rainy season, and rainbows can also be seen at that time. Krishna freely moves among his friends as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, and when he plays his flute, all living creatures, mobile and immobile, are overwhelmed with ecstasy. They quiver, and tears flow from their eyes. Krishna's conjugal love is the summit of all his various opulences. He is the master of all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. And out of these, his perfect beauty is his conjugal attraction. Such perfect beauty, such perfect conjugal beauty, eternally exists only in the form of Krishna, whereas his other opulences are present in his Narayan form. So we had discussed previously that the Vaikuntha planets, where Krishna's incarnations and expansions are dwelling, extraordinarily amazing realms that are unlimited, and they're also full of opulences. So even though we have stated before that they're full of opulences, still, Lord Chaitanya is now saying that Krishna's eternal abode of Goloka Vrindavan, although situated in spiritual skies above the Vaikuntha planets, so therefore distinct from them. In Goloka, there is even more fullness of Krishna's opulences, particularly of the opulence of his beauty. So this may be a bit difficult to understand, how Vaikuntha can be full of opulences, but Goloka is still more full. So this is because what concepts we use in the material world is that when we're comparing two things, we generally have a positive and a negative. So if we have something that's full, then the comparative will be something that's empty. But in the spiritual world, there isn't any such negative comparisons because nothing is negative in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, we have the concept of everything being more or better, Srila Prabhupada teaches us. So where you have the comparison to perfect, it will be more perfect and most perfect. There's no such thing as imperfect in the spiritual world. So whereas in Vaikuntha we have extraordinary and amazing opulences that are full, they are certainly unlimited and wonderful compared to the material world. And their fullness is for whatever the wonderful pastimes and purposes are in Vaikuntha. So we understand this with a nice analogy that Srila Prabhupada gives us in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. So there the discussion is on the Parivar Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is describing Krishna as the fountainhead of all the incarnations and expansions. So even though all the expansions and incarnations of Krishna can fully express all the opulence of Krishna if needed, because they're coming for certain pastimes or certain purposes, or even in the Vaikuntha planets, they have their pastimes and their abodes. They don't have to experience or they don't have to display all the pastimes, all the opulences of Krishna. So as much opulences as needed, that is what they display. This doesn't mean that the source of their powers, Krishna, is any less in this life. So the example Srila Prabhupada gives us is that of an electrical powerhouse. The powerhouse is capable of supplying a huge industry as much as it's capable of supplying a house. Just because a house needs comparatively little power doesn't mean that the powerhouse is only capable of supplying a small house. When the industry needs it, the powerhouse can supply the industry as well. So in the same way, Krishna is full of unlimited opulences and unlimited power, but all his forms will display what is needed. But Krishna himself displays all his powers in full, but even that full is always increasing, as we will read a bit later on. And the most important thing for us is that even though Krishna's full potency, full power, full opulences and beauty are displayed only in Goloka Vrindavan and not in Vaikuntha, when Krishna comes to the material world, he actually manifests that same Vrindavan. So all of his opulences that are displayed fully in Goloka in the spiritual sky are displayed fully on this earth in Vrindavan Dham. So this is very special because even in Vaikuntha, this is not experienced. So it is described that Lord Narayan will display up to about 93% of Krishna's qualities and all his other forms to various degrees. And this we understand that through the words of Lord Chaitanya, that Lord Narayan is expressing Krishna's pronunciation, his wealth, and his knowledge, and so on. But when it comes to the complete expression of beauty, of course, Lord Narayan is extremely beautiful, but the complete expression of beauty that is Krishna displayed in Vrindavan Dham is not expressed in Vaikuntha. We understand in Vaikuntha that all the residents are serving Lord Narayan in this mode of servitorship, Dasya Ras. So this beauty does not, we could say, need to be expressed as much in Vaikuntha as it is expressed in Vrindavan, where the moods of the residents are going deeper and deeper into the highest love. So from Dasya Ras, we have a progression into Sakya Ras, then paternal, which is fraternal love, then paternal love of Vatsalya Ras, and then the highest love, which is conjugal love. And that requires, or that expression of Krishna's beauty is therefore the highest attractive feature in that rasa. So all of these opulences are therefore expressed to their fullest in Sri Vrindavan Dham. As Lord Chaitanya described the super excellence of Krishna's conjugal attraction, he felt transcendental ecstasy, and catching the hands of Sanatana Goswami, he began to proclaim how fortunate the damsels of Raja were, reciting a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 44, Text 14. What great penance and austerities the damsels of Vrindavan must have undergone, for they are able to drink the nectar of Krishna, who is all beauty, all strength, all riches, and all fame, and who is the essence of all beautiful bodily lustre. So in this relationship that the gopis have with Krishna, they're expressing basically all of the qualities of the preceding rasas. So we know that there are five main rasas that one can associate with Krishna with in the spiritual world. The first is called Santoras. This is the rasa of neutrality. Neutrality meaning that one may have or one has given up all material attachments and has become completely attached to Krishna, but they have not yet developed that affection. So they're in a neutral position, we call it. Without that full development of affection, one can associate with Krishna Das as, say, a tree or as a bird, and so one is still in a relationship with Krishna, but that expression of emotion is not there. When the emotion deepens and there's a sense of wanting to serve Krishna, then one can develop the relationship of servitorship. So servitorship is called Dasyaras, and if one is then one obviously when we're explaining this, it's just want to clarify that it's not that one progresses through the rasas because everyone has an eternal relationship with Krishna, but this is to explain the progression of the emotions, of how the emotions actually deepen in that context. So the development of the emotion in Dasyaras, which is wanting to serve Krishna, when that emotion develops to this feeling of being equal to Krishna, that is when fraternal love or the love of Sakyaras, friendship, develops. So from this rasa onwards, the soul that is serving Krishna actually forgets that they are an ordinary living entity, because they have to believe that they are either on the same level of Krishna to be Krishna's friend, or in the next rasa, which is parental love, they actually have to believe they're superior to Krishna in order to associate with Krishna appropriately, to bring that authenticity to that relationship. So, in that sense of parental love, the devotee who is in that relationship actually feels superior to Krishna, that Krishna is dependent on them, and that Krishna actually comes to the position of worshipping his parents. And then when we come to this conjugal love, which is the highest of all rasas, there's all those feelings together. There's that feeling of wanting to serve Krishna, as in Dasya, in the neutral, in the Dasya ras. There's a complete attachment to Krishna, as there is in the neutral rasa. There is that feeling sometimes of equality to Krishna and the feeling of superiority to Krishna. But there's also the deepest and highest emotion of conjugal love, which the Gopis of Vrindavan are the only ones that are able to experience. And so they are the only ones who are also able to experience Krishna's beauty developed all the way to that stage of love. This is their extraordinary position. The body of Krishna, the ocean of the eternal beauty of youth, can be seen to move in waves of beauty. And there is a whirlwind sound of its flute. Those waves and that whirlwind make the hearts of the gopis flutter like dry leaves on trees. And when those leaves fall down at Krishna's lotus feet, they can never rise up again. There is no beauty to compare with that of Krishna, who is the origin of Narayan and all other incarnations. But no one possesses beauty equal to or greater than Krishna's. Otherwise, why would the goddess of fortune, the constant companion of Narayan, give up his association and engage herself in penance to gain the association of Krishna? Such is the super excellent beauty of Krishna, the everlasting mine of all beauty. It is from that beauty that all other beautiful things emanate. So this paragraph is referring to a pastime um, involving Lakshmi Devi, and this occurs in the forest of Belvan. So Belvan is in Sri Vrindavan Dham. It's one of the 12 main forests of Vrindavan. Belvan is so named after the many bale trees, also called bilva trees, that were once full in that forest. And Krishna and his friends used to come and play there, and they used to enjoy the sweet bilva fruits, or bale fruits. So the pastime goes that once Narada Muni was visiting Vaikuntha, and he was describing the extraordinarily beautiful pastime of the Rasa Leela. And this pastime attracted the mind of Lakshmi Devi so much that she actually came to Vrindavan to participate. This is a very significant point because Lakshmi Devi is always, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the constant companion of Narayan. She's always massaging his feet, she's always found his lotus-like chest, and she is, of course, the most chaste wife. So in some ways, it's not unusual because Krishna is Narayan, just that, of course, Narayan is not expressing all of Krishna's qualities, but it is precisely that reason that the goddess of fortune wanted to experience Krishna and his extraordinary exchanges with the Gopis. But when she went to Vrindavan, she found that she was not able to enter into the Rasa Leela. So this is because Lakshmi Devi's relationship with Krishna is in the mood of awe and reverence. And that mood is very appropriate, of course, for Vaikuntha, where Krishna is being worshipped in that way. But in Sri Vrindavan Dham, the atmosphere is very different. There, Krishna does not consider himself the Lord of the universe at all. As he tells his father in Srimad Bhagavatam, we are forest dwellers. He believes himself, of course, to be a cowherd boy, and so all his permanent and loving associates are engaged in those duties of cowherd people. So the gopis, who are the only ones who are able to experience this rasa dance with Krishna, they're not just pure and elevated souls, but they're also simple-hearted girls who have given up everything to associate with Krishna in a way that pleases him. So to be in that perfect atmosphere of Vrindavan, they are milking cows, they are making cow dung patties, they are going to the market to sell their wares, and we can't imagine the wonderfully opulent, beautiful Lakshmi Devi able to engage in these simple tasks. What to speak of giving up um, her opulence to extra arms. So being unable to enter into this simple yet supremely sublime rasa because of this mood of awe and reverence, she was not able to gain entrance into the rasa dance. Rather, she took up penance in this forest of Belvan. Hence, the forest is also known as Shrivan, Shri referring to Lakshmi Devi, and there she is still doing penance to this day to try and qualify herself to enter into the rasa dance. So there's a very nice temple in that forest with a beautiful deity of Lakshmi Devi still meditating on this wonderful pastime, trying to gain entrance into it. So in order to please Krishna, we must always act the way he wants us to act. And we can never imitate the position of the elevated devotees like the Gopis, but we can always follow in the footsteps of those who serve them so that we can try and develop the right mood in order to serve the Gopis. So we'll continue. The attitude of the Gopis is like a mirror upon which the reflection of Krishna's beauty develops at every moment. Both Krishna and the Gopis increase their transcendental beauty at every moment, and there is always transcendental competition between them. No one can appreciate the beauty of Krishna by properly discharging his occupational duty or by undergoing austerities, practicing mystic yoga, cultivating knowledge, or offering various kinds of prayers. Only those who are on the transcendental platform of love of God, who engage in devotional service only out of love, can appreciate the transcendental beauty of Krishna. Such beauty is the essence of all opulences, and it is appreciated only in Goloka Vrindavan and nowhere else. In the form of Narayan, the beauties of mercy and fame, etc., are all established by Krishna, but Krishna's gentleness and magnanimity do not exist in Narayan. They are found only in Krishna. So about how we can't get this highest love through these other kinds of yogas. There's a very nice verse in the Nectar of Instructions, verse 10. So the translation reads, in the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. So what this means is that when one engages in karma yoga, generally one is too much absorbed in accumulating money, accumulating possessions, accumulating material things. And in that mindset, one can only think of this. And the only way that one could make advancement in spiritual matters, which of course means um, being renounced from material things, is by doing some charity or offering the fruits of work in some way to spiritual causes. And this is the process of karma yoga, basically. This is how people make advancement in a spiritual way, even though they are so materially absorbed. But it's said that if someone looks beyond this concept of trying to only accumulate material possessions and they start realizing that there's something more to life than that, then they start searching for spiritual knowledge. And to attain spiritual knowledge, which of course starts with understanding the difference between the body and the soul, our real identities as a soul and our um, duties as a soul. This is called Jnana Yoga. This is the real beginnings of spiritual life. So if someone progresses out of Karma Yoga, start asking questions and gain transcendental knowledge, then it says Krishna favors them and they become Jnanis. Next, it is said about the Jnanis. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, Jnanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. So we know that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that out of thousands of men, hardly anyone is. So this is basically referring to the Jnanis. They all will be searching for the absolute truth without really having an idea. And if they make significant advancement, they may come into contact with devotional service. But of course, we know that taking to devotional service is dependent on getting the mercy of the devotee. So if they actually get that mercy and they're able to take that content and turn it into a life of devotional service, then they have achieved the success of their existence and they can make progress towards understanding Krishna. That is the most superior out of all of the Jnanis. But, it said, however, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. So out of all of those who take to devotional service, those that attain prema are of course the most superior. But even on the level of prema, there are different levels. So generally we think that prema is just a broad definition for all of those who have attained to love of God. But as we've already discussed, on that level of prema, we have the higher four rasas. So Santoras is not exactly considered at the level of prema, as we said, because the development of affection is not there, or not at least developed as much as it is. But on the level of prema, we have Dasya ras, Sakya ras, Vatsalya ras, and Madhurya ras. So on this level of prema, it said, the gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. So this verse then, this is part of it that we've discussed. This part explains that even if one is trying to reach the perfection of karma yoga or jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga, they're never actually going to get anywhere near close to achieving the perfection of life. Because even the perfection of life in reaching prema is not completely realized without achieving the highest goal, which is this Madhurya Rasa. So, what to speak of all of these yogas, even those wonderful and advanced devotees in the other rasas may not experience the highest ecstasies, the highest beauty, the highest love of Krishna. So it's basically saying that one could waste so much time, so many lifetimes in karma yoga and jnana yoga and ashtanga yoga, and never actually achieve any kind of perfection. So taking to devotional service under the guidance of our spiritual teachers in association of devotees, getting their mercy. This is the only way in which we can try and achieve um, our own constitutional position. And if we are able to achieve, of course, our constitutional position, as we've discussed, is already inherent in each person. But if we are able, if this is our nature to attain to this Madhurya Rasa, then we will attain this highest love of Krishna. So another important point that Lord Chaitanya has made is about the other qualities that Krishna possesses more than Lord Narayan. So besides his extraordinary beauty and expression of that beauty in his beautiful pastimes with the gopis and that love, the highest love that he shares, Krishna is also supremely gentle and magnanimous. So Narayan himself is so gentle and magnanimous. We know about this pastime that occurred with Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu Muni was deputed by the demigods to find out who was most superior amongst the trio of Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. So Bhrigu Muni had to devise a test in order to ascertain this. And he started by going to Brahma, who's actually his father, and he created an offense mentally by not offering respect to his father, which is obviously a huge offense. And although Lord Brahma noticed this and he was internally very angry, he was able to restrain himself. So Bhrigu Muni, of course, was able to realize that Brahma was angry. And so we understand the inner meaning that because Lord Brahma is in contact with the mode of passion, he does get very angry, but he's able to restrain himself. And then Bhrigu Muni went to Lord Shiva, is actually his brother. Bhrigu is the son of Brahma. And then he committed a greater offense. This is a verbal offense because he actually criticized Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was sitting in an assembly of sages with his wife, Parvati Devi, which is not by conventional rules considered appropriate. We know, of course, that Lord Shiva is a transcendental personality, so these rules don't always apply to him. But when Bhrigu Muni criticized him, Lord Shiva was very angry and he actually went to kill him. Parvati Devi had to restrain him. So we understand that Lord Shiva, although again transcendental, being a devotee, he's demonstrating because of his contact with the mode of ignorance that he goes even further than Lord Brahma. Not only does he feel the anger, but he actually acts on it, which is typical of anyone who's influenced by ignorance. Again, Lord Shiva not being influenced by it, but setting an example for us to be wary of. Then Bhrigu Muni went to Lord Vishnu, and the Lord was lying down with on Lord Anantashesh, and Lakshmi Devi was massaging him, so to speak. And Bhrigu Muni, he committed the greatest offense here. He actually kicked Lord Vishnu in the chest. So, of course, Lord Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, but he is actually even transcendental to these modes. So, whereas we could expect someone in the material mode of goodness would not react physically like Lord Shiva, and certainly not even mentally like Lord Brahma, but Lord Vishnu acts in an even higher way, in a way that is completely transcendental. Not only does he not react and not get angry in any way, but he actually apologizes to Bhrigu Muni. He takes responsibility for Bhrigu Muni's foot being injured because Bhrigu Muni kicked him. That's fairly extraordinary. One would not experience such a reaction in the material world, certainly at all. The Lord was so apologetic, and he apologized for Bhrigu Muni. My chest is so hard, and you must have injured yourself, and I'm so sorry about that. So that's extremely extraordinary. That's gentleness and magnanimity that we can't even imagine. So we can only imagine, therefore, Krishna's gentleness and magnanimity that's not even present in Lord Narayan, the source of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, greatly relishing the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, he was explaining to Sanatan, quoted another verse. This is from Canto 9, Chapter 24, Text 65. The gopis used to relish the beauty of Krishna as a ceremony of perpetual enjoyment. They enjoy the beautiful face of Krishna, his beautiful ears with earrings, his broad forehead, his smile, and while enjoying the sight of Krishna's beauty, they used to criticize the creator, Brahma, for causing their vision of Krishna to be momentarily impeded by the blinking of their eyelids. So there's a very famous song called the Gopiki that is usually sung in this Kartik month. This is the Gopi's songs of separation that is contained in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. When Krishna disappeared from their vision for the rasa dance, the Gopis sang these beautiful verses, and therein they criticized Lord Brahma. This is Canto 10, Chapter 31, Text 15. Atatiyat Bhavan Anhikananam Tritiyugayate Dwamapashyatam Udiraguntalam Shrimukam Chate Pradaudikshatam Pakshmakritvishan. Translation. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish Creator. So the beauty of that face is described even further by Lord Chaitanya. The Vedic hymn known as the Kama Gayatri describes the face of Krishna as the king of all moons. In metaphorical language, there are many different full moons, but they are all one in Krishna. There is the full moon of his face, the full moon of his cheeks, the full moon of the sandalwood pulp spot on his forehead, which is a half moon, and the beautiful full moons of his fingernails and toenails. In this way, there are 24 and a half moons, and Krishna is the central figure of all of them. So, in this Kama Gayatri, which is generally chanted by the Brahmins, the syllables are all the number of syllables corresponds to these numbers of moons as Krishna's different bodily features are being described as. So this is again metaphorical language, but it's a very interesting point that in the material world, if somebody is considered beautiful, it's generally in relation to their face, and all the other body parts are thus considered beautiful in relation to their face. So if somebody is, well, not maybe considered that beautiful, but even if they have like beautiful hands, may not always be noticed. And even if somebody is beautiful in their face and their hands are not that beautiful, no one really pays that much attention to the other bodily features. But with Krishna, every feature on its own is exquisitely, perfectly, transcendently beautiful. So his fingernails are described as moons, and his cheeks are described as moons. Everything, in fact, is so extraordinarily beautiful on its own. And then, of course, the sum of it together, Krishna, is also like this extraordinary moon. The dancing movement of Krishna's earrings, eyes, and eyebrows is very attractive to the damsels of Raja. Activities in devotional service increase the sense of devotional service. What else is there for two eyes to see beyond the face of Krishna? Since one cannot sufficiently see Krishna with only two eyes, one feels incapable and thus becomes bereaved. Such bereavement is slightly reduced when one criticizes the creative power of the Creator. The unsatiated seer of Krishna's face thus laments, I do not have thousands of eyes, but only two, and even these two eyes are disturbed by the movements of my eyelids. So it is to be understood that the creator of this body is not very intelligent. He is not conversant with the art of ecstasy, but is simply a prosaic creator. He does not know how to arrange things properly so that one can see only Krishna. So this reminds us of the verse by Rupa Goswami who desires millions of tongues when we want to chant the holy name of Krishna, because such an advanced devotee is tasting Krishna's sweetness in the holy names. So the gopis, they want to see Krishna with thousands of eyes, and they are lamenting firstly that they only have two, but then that these eyes are being impeded by the blinking. So this is the depth of their ecstasy. The gopis are very cultured girls, of course, and they are not those who would criticize an elevated personality like Rama. But when they're deep in ecstasy, the only thing that matters is Krishna, and the only thing that matters is satisfying Krishna. This is what devotional service is. Their beauty, their activities with Krishna, it's not for their pleasure like we experience in the material world. Whatever they are doing is solely, utterly, and completely for Krishna. That is why there's no comparison to the love of the gopis for Krishna anywhere in this material world. So for them, anything that impedes their service to Krishna is fit to be criticized. And so they're criticizing the creator who has created eyelids that are impeding their vision. They can't even tolerate a fraction of a second. We can't imagine. It feels like a millennium to them. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the seventh verse of of the Sri Shikshashtakam, he's in the mood at the Gopis. He says that he's considering a moment to be like 12 years. So a single moment, a single blink of the eyelids is even too much for them to tolerate. This is the depth of their ecstasy, their deep and extraordinary love. The gopis' minds are always engaged in relishing the sweetness of Krishna's body. He is the ocean of beauty, and the luster of his body and the beauty of his face and smile are all attractive to the minds of the gopis. In the Krishna Karanamrita, Krishna's body, face, and smile have been described as sweet, sweeter, and sweetest. When there are three kinds of contamination in the bodily constitution, convulsions take place. Similarly, a perfect devotee of Krishna experiences convulsions when he is overwhelmed by seeing the beauty of Krishna's body, face, and smile. So we had said earlier that when we're talking about transcendental comparatives, there's never a negative. So when we're talking about the sweetness of Krishna's body, there's no less sweet or no sweet. In comparison to Krishna's body being sweet, his face is sweeter and his smile is the sweetest. And any devotee who is experiencing this extraordinary sweetness thus will go into the ecstasies that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying is expressed with what seems like convulsions, but is actually ecstasy. The devotee increasingly feels the absence of Krishna, for without him one cannot drink the nectar of his beauty. When the transcendental sound of Krishna's flute vibrates, the devotee's anxiety to hear that flute penetrates the covering of the material world and enters the spiritual sky, where the transcendental sound of the flute enters into the ears of the gopis and their followers. The sound of Krishna's flute always resides within the ears of the gopis and increases their ecstasy. When they hear it, no other sound can enter their ears, and they are unable to reply properly to their family members' questions, for all these beautiful sounds are vibrating in their ears. So Krishna's flute playing is nothing ordinary at all. It is said that with the different notes that Krishna plays, he can actually make extraordinary things happen, like the Yamuna flows backwards, animals become stunned, and the gopis, they can't do anything else, they can't hear anything else, they just come running to see him. So in the same way that the sound of Krishna's flute is extraordinary, Krishna's flute is extraordinary. It's not just a piece of bamboo. We know that everything in the spiritual world is fully conscious, and so is the flute. And so we have the chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam where the Gopis are praising this flute and envying actually the fact that it is a constant companion of Krishna. They're even considering how proud the mother and father of the flute must be. So this is very sweet and beautiful. And just an interesting point that the flute has manifested in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as the mridanga. And this is why this instrument is always part of traditional kirtan. It's very revered. We handle it with a lot of care and respect as well. Thus, Lord Chaitanya explained the transcendental constitution of Krishna, his expansions, his bodily luster, and everything connected with him. In short, Lord Chaitanya explained Krishna, the essence of everything as he is. So we are so privileged to have been going through these chapters where Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami have been discussing all these transcendental topics. They started right from the basic and foundational questions of spiritual life, with Sanatana Goswami asking Lord Chaitanya, who am I? Why am I suffering? And so on, all the way to these extraordinary, deep, and transcendental topics about Krishna. So this is again wonderful meditations for us to enter into this month of Kartik with. Today is another special observance. This the day of Vijay Dashi. So this day is a day in which Lord Ramachandra actually killed the demon Ravan. So we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, the ninth canto, as well as from the great epic Ramayana, that Lord Ram is also one of Lord Krishna's incarnations. He appeared on this earth, as the Lord always says, Paritranaya sadhana vinashaya chadushkitam dharmasam stapanartaya sambhavami yuge. In every millennium, he's coming to reestablish the religious principles, to kill the miscreants, and to deliver the pious. So the world, the universe, was actually suffering immensely under the rule of Ravan. His name actually means the one who makes others cry. And so to destroy this miscreant and to deliver the pious and to establish the principles of religion, We know that Lord Ram established Ram Rajya, which is still revered millions of years later as the ideal king. He appeared, he killed Ravan on this day. Ravan was so powerful. He had 10 heads and he was ruling all over creation. And it is said that he was actually stepping on the heads of the Navgrahas as he went to his throne. And he basically could do whatever he wanted, but he committed the greatest evil of trying to separate the Lord and his internal potency, Sita Devi. So this is akin to the common materialists who always try to enjoy that which belongs to the Lord um, without offering it first to the Lord. And so he was vanquished. This is also very important point, and we should pray very hard to the Lord to vanquish our material desires so that we can advance in our devotional service and develop pure love for him and his beloved consorts, whether Sri Lakshmi Devi, Srimati Radharani, Sita Devi. And it is also, I think, the appearance day of Madhvacharya, who was one of the great spiritual masters in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. And he is actually the incarnation of Hanuman. And he discovered the deity of Udupi Krishna in Udupi, which is near Mangalore in India. A beautiful Lord. So thank you all so much for your kind attention. I pray so much for God's mercy and blessings on all of you in this Kartik month and always. Shishantai Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
I've got two questions. The first one,
Sure.
I've asked a few people and I get different answers from different people. In the temples and that, the deities' palms and the soles of their feet are always red. Why are they red?
It's actually described. I may be wrong. I don't have to check if it's not in the native devotion, but generally it's described that there are certain body parts of the Lord that are actually reddish in color. So, for example, his eyes are actually reddish. I'm sure you would have noticed looking at some pictures that you'll see the corners of the Lord's eyes in particular are reddish.
Okay.
And the palms of his hands and soles of his feet also. I forget the other body parts that are also reddish. So there's characteristics basically of the Lord's body. So many body parts are small, so many are large. Like the Lord's arms are always longer than his knees or reach down to his knees like that. So there's certain characteristics. It's actually characteristics of a great personality. Like you would have read also that very elevated souls like Narayan Das Thakur, it said that they have these characteristics of what a Mahapurush. So in that way, we identify the Lord as the Supreme Lord as well. There's also the markings of the palms on the soles of the feet. So that is those characteristics. I'll find the reference for you. And also, I know with in the traditional Indian culture, the females generally decorate their palms and their soles of the feet with that red lacquer at celebrations. So I need to double check if that reference is, of course, in relation to the Lord. But definitely this is a characteristic of the Lord's transcendental body. So this is why all the deities are generally in that way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that makes more sense than a lot of the other answers I got.
It's a reference, it's not me. But I'll find it.
I'd appreciate that. Thanks, Mataji. The second question, I don't know if I'm getting confused or going down the wrong track. One of Krishna's opulences is renunciation, which means it's perfect renunciation.
Yeah.
How does that not affect his attraction to Srimati Radharani?
So that is a good question. So with renunciation, the way I understand it with Krishna's, let's say Krishna's relationship with Radharani would be something like we could say in the material world, I don't need to be with you, but I want to be with you. Does that make does it give you a bit of a idea as to what the relationship is like then? So what it means is that Generally, if you like discuss relationships in the material world, there's always some kind of need. They're need-based relationships. It's very rare that you can find a relationship that actually has no need involved. So there's something I need from you. But wanting to be with somebody is a choice. It's something I'm doing out of pure love, or at least in the spiritual world, it would be pure love, and not because I can get anything from you. So when Krishna is with Srimati Radharani, it is because of that pure love. He needs nothing from her. He is called Atmaram because he is completely satisfied in himself. He is the source of everything, as it's stated today. He is the source of all beauty anyway. Srimati Radharani herself comes from him. And so he could theoretically just be satisfied on his own and not have anyone else. But of course, Srimati Radharani is his own energy, practically is himself. So their expression of love is, of course, very different. We don't have a comparison in the material world to explain it. But in order to, engage in these loving pastimes, he doesn't need someone else. He has his own energy, and he, out of this deep and extraordinary love that they have for each other, he chooses to be with her. He doesn't need anything from her. Does that help
Yes.
to?
Yes, that does.
So
Thank you.
So yeah, because in that sense of renunciation, whatever happens between them, they know that there's no motive behind why they're together. They're just together purely out of the love of wanting to be with each other. And so this is also why he leaves her even at the beginning of the rasa dance. He leaves the gopis at first to be with her, and then he leaves her also. So he's always showing himself to be the supremely independent, he's a supreme controller, supremely independent. But when he joins them again, it's just to reciprocate love, not because he wants their beauty or he wants anything else.
Okay. Now that makes sense. Yeah, that clears up a lot of it. Something else to mull over. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are there any other questions?
We'll request Bhaktan Kura Paul Mataji. Mataji, welcome. Is there any questions or comments from your side?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for wonderful class, dear Mataji. Dandavapana. I have one question. We spoke
Yes.
about different rasas. It's important for a devotee to attend Madhurya Rasa, conjugal love for Krishna, to can attend Prema. I don't think so, because one devotee can feel different, can have different rasas or mixture between them.
Yeah, sorry, I must clarify that point. But if you are meant to be in that Madhurya Rasa, then yes, it is important for you to develop to that point. So I think I should have clarified that. Because not everybody, as you said correctly, is meant to be in the Madhurya Rasa. But if that is your rasa, then you must obviously develop fully. There is that importance in that way. And the thing is that we all don't know what rasa we're actually situated in. We'll only be glimpsing it at the stage of asakti, which is quite high up in the devotional ladder. It's going to be after we've cleared all our narthas, after we've become steady, and after we've developed real taste for the holy name, for devotional service. Then we get to asakti, and we've left all material attachments behind. And only when we're able to give up all material attachments can we actually become fully attached to Krishna. And in that full attachment, then we can dance our relationship. So until then, we don't know which rasa we're in. So we should actually obviously respect all rasas, and just be aware, of course, that the Madhurya rasa is where the highest development of love of Krishna is. Bearing in mind that, again, we may not always reach there, but the truth is that whatever rasa that we have with Krishna, I was just reading today that it is the transcendental way that Krishna arranges the rasas that we can associate with him and still feel fully satisfied. So what it means is that you can be in the Vatsalya Ras, the parental relationship, and you're not going to be envying or wanting to be in the Madhurya Rasa. You will be so satisfied with your interactions with Krishna that you will not only be happy to associate with him in that Vatsalya Ras, but you will also be able to appreciate that Madhurya Ras without envy. So everyone actually appreciates it, even if they are in other rasas. Like we know that Uddhava, he was Krishna's dearest friend. He was so close to Krishna that he actually expressed Krishna's bodily features. But Uddhava has that great, great respect and appreciation for Madhurya Rasa. It's not that he's saying he's in the friendship rasa and it's the best rasa and he's jealous of, this is what will happen in the material world, in a comparative situation. But in the spiritual world, it's very different. Uddhava doesn't desire to change his rasa, but he desires that he gets the mercy of the gopis because they are in that higher rasa with Krishna. So that's why he desires to be a clump of grass and get the dust of their lotus feet on his head. So that's a very elevated level, but that's how we must be. We must have that appreciation for all the rasas and that absolute respect for the Madhurya rasa as the highest, even if we're going to attain to another rasa. Is that clearer, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, very nice answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Hare Krishna, welcome to Damodar Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, welcome. Is there any comments or questions from your side?
Sorry, no question now. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And from Risha Mataji, I'm not sure whether she's still there. I think she's gone. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Mataji. Mataji, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and dedication.
Thank you for the service, Prabhu.
We'll have a short. Really appreciate it.
No, it's all the mercy of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. We'll have a short kirtan and glorification of Lord Ramachandra. This is a very famous bhajan. Raghupati Raghava Rajana. Raghupati Raghava Rajana. Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raghavan Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sundara Vigraha Medhasharam Ganga Tulasi Shaladam Sundara Vigraha Meghasharam Ganga Tulasi Shaladam Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Vadita Pavana Sitaram Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Vadita Pavana Sitaram Bhadragirishwar Sitaram Bhagat Jana Priya Sitaram Bhadragirishwar Sitaram Bhagat Jana Priya Sitaram Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram Janaki Ramana Sitaram Jaya Jaya Raghava Sitaram Janaki Ramana Sitaram Jaya Jaya Raghava Sitaram Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Ram, Raghupati Raghav, Raghuram, Patita Pavan, Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. So read the translation. The refrain is: the lord of the Raghus, the descendant of the Raghu dynasty, King Ramachandra, the purifier of the fallen, glories to Sri Sri Sita Ram. The beautiful deity forms are dark as a thundercloud. Glories to the Ganga, Tulasi Devi, and Shaligram Shila. The auspicious lord of the mountain, Sita Ram, the ones dear to the devotees, Sita Ram, the beloved of the daughter of Janaka. All glories to Sita Ram. All glories to the descendant of the Raghu dynasty, Sita Ram. So thank you all again so much for joining us this evening. May you all be abundantly blessed in this month of Kartik. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maji,
Hare
thank you.
Krishna.